Shepard Smith on the Fox News deck in New York with an update on the tropical storm in Texas, where it is now, where it's going, rainfall totals, and a look at some of the damage. Since it made landfall on Friday as a Category 4 hurricane, Harvey has remained just on shore, right on the coastal edge now as a tropical storm and historic flooding. I want to show you some pictures over here in the monster wall. This flooding, according to the National Weather Service, some parts of Houston, its suburbs and its exurbs, could get 50 inches of rain before it's all over. And we've seen these incredible pictures. This happens to be from LaGrange, Texas, and just historic flooding. I'll show you how many so often when we cover these things, a reporter can stand on a bridge and show you water as far as the eye can see, but often it doesn't go much farther than that. That's the area that has to be dealt with. In this case, it stretches for more than 300 miles. Areas of intense flooding along a 300-mile stretch in Texas, from the Houston and Galveston area all the way down to the Corpus Christi area, up to the San Antonio area and the Austin area. It's incredible what's happened. If this 50 inches happens in some areas in Texas, that will be the most rain ever recorded from one system in Texas in U.S. history, since we've been charting such things. The rising waters has brought about so many of these rescues. We've been watching them, and I know you have on your feed and otherwise. Chased thousands of people to rooftops or higher ground. Rescuers say they've been having a tough time keeping up with all the calls, really. And in Houston alone, the police chief now says emergency crews have rescued 2,000 people from the flooding, and truly that's just the beginning. That's what the police have been able to do. But locals who are just on their boats have been able to go out and rescue untold thousands more. I want to show you some of the flooding in Houston. You've been seeing these pictures. These are from KTRK, our network news service affiliate. Just street after street, people wading through the streets trying to get to higher ground. This morning, local officials say they released more water from the reservoirs in the Houston area, which have really been overwhelmed. And the goal is to protect the city's downtown area from devastating floods. But when you open those reservoirs, the floods move elsewhere. It's not like there's a place for them to go. Thousands of homes could still be in harm's way. I want to show you the expanse of this on the big wall over here. These are the areas, all of the areas of extreme localized flooding. So you can see down in Galveston, many different spots, 20 different areas in the Houston area. Every freeway in Houston is at one point or another. You know how Houston is a series of loops and then freeways that run through it. Every freeway is underwater at some point, so you can't travel those freeways easily. And you can see all the different spots. These aren't minor localized flooding. This is major flooding in all of those areas, down to Corpus Christi, Rockport, Victoria, up to Galveston, Houston, even up into the city of Austin, the state capital, and way over in San Antonio. Incredible the amount of flooding, and in most cases the water is not yet going down. I want to give you the big picture now from the radar loop that we've been watching throughout the day. This storm is moving, but not a lot. The center of it is kind of offshore, it's really straddling the coastline, but it's been inland for a while. And the reason it's sitting there is there's a high-pressure center over there in the southeastern United States, and there's another high-pressure center over here in the southwest, and the storm's in the middle. So this is pushing this way, trying to make it go east. That high-pressure center over there is pushing west, trying to make it go west, and the storm is just stuck in the middle. And that's why it's just been sitting and spinning. But, you know, it's gone over land. And usually when these sorts of storms go over land, history tells us, though this is unprecedented, when they go over land, they start to peter out. Because for any system like this, it's basically a large low-pressure center. Low-pressure centers go counterclockwise. It's a hurricane. It's still a low-pressure center. Same way here as a tropical storm. But when they're not over water, that center, because there's updraft, especially at night, that brings the moisture up into the system and gives it fuel, it runs out of moisture. When you get up, when it's not over these very warm Gulf waters, it would run out of fuel and start to rain itself out and then eventually dissipate. In this case, that hasn't happened, and it's a fascinating scientific thing. For the meteorologists, it's incredible to watch because they've rarely seen anything quite like it. What's happening is this low-pressure center, this tropical storm Harvey, though it's been over land, it's feeding off itself. It's rained so much, and there's so much flooding in so many different areas that there's enough moisture on the ground that it can pull it up and sustain its life as a low-pressure center. So it continues to rain. You know, the worst of the rain, if this is your low pressure center, it's round. It's to the north and east. This quadrant, the upper right quadrant, that's always the wettest quadrant, almost always. That's the area of the most moisture, and you can see that's what's happening here. All the moisture is to the north and east. And in this case, because the storm has moved over some, watch this. This is the last picture right there. Houston is out of the really heavy torrential downpours. That's moved over into southwest Louisiana. You can see Lake Charles, and New Orleans will blow up over there in just a minute, too. You'll be able to see these bands. And then this is the other loop that gives you a more localized look. So they're getting a lot of rain from Lake Charles over into New Orleans, up into Alexandria, and up into the Shreveport area in Louisiana. And there's more down in South Mississippi and up the coast. There's rain in Memphis from this, lower Alabama, South Mississippi, a little bit of the Florida Panhandle. It's a very big storm, and it's still sucking up more moisture. So what's about to happen? Here's what the National Hurricane Center believes is going to happen. Still have these two high-pressure centers kind of keeping it in this area. It's right along the coastline now, so part of the center is over water, part of the center is over land, where it was all over land. They're expecting it will now make a loop over the next few days. Looping down, see the circulation there. The center will come down into the Gulf of Mexico, which may allow for a little bit of strengthening because this Gulf water is so warm. Almost historic. The warmest water in the whole region is right around here where this storm has formed. That's why it went so quickly from a Category 1 to a 2, a 3, and then as it made its first landfall as a Category 4. Again, it's down to a tropical storm now, but when it gets back over the Gulf, the prediction is from the National Hurricane Center that it will strengthen. Not back to a hurricane status, that's not what they're predicting, but they're predicting that it will strengthen. It'll certainly have a lot more moisture when all of the center of circulation is over the water. You know, it's bad enough that it's over flooded areas now, but when it's all over this warm Gulf water, they suspect it'll pull more water up, and that'll create more rain, again, to this quadrant, the north and east section. So it comes down, here's the prediction, over the next few days, it comes down into the Gulf of Mexico, picks up a little more, winds maybe go up a little bit, but more importantly, more rain, and then up through the Houston area, another landfall in Houston, expected sometime Wednesday, Thursday, and then this storm starts to head in that direction, to the north and east. Between now and then, there is so much rain still to come. Houston it's going to be a little drier in Houston. Today they're expecting 2 or 3 inches or so, which doesn't sound like a lot, except Houston is a place that's always suspect of flooding because it's so flat. And now with all of this moisture, it's already super saturated. Much of the area is flooded. Any more rain could be catastrophic. 2 to 3 inches expected today. And then there's always uncertainty with these storms. As good as they are at projecting and predicting, hurricanes and low pressure centers eventually do what they want. A little bit of weakening from this high pressure center to the southeast, a little bit of weakening, that would cause it to push more to the east, right? A little bit of weakening to the west, and we might get more of a wobble. But the prediction is it goes back over the water, heads out, well, Houston moved, heads out, back on land by Houston, and heads in that general direction. Between now and then, some of these areas in Louisiana, parts of Texas as well, could get 15, 20, 25 more inches of rain. It's coming to New Orleans. Are there concerns for the levees and the rest in New Orleans? Our affiliates there tell us no. They're getting rain, but, you know, it's summertime in the southeast. You get a lot of rain. It's just a matter of how quickly this thing moves along and how much more moisture it picks up while it's down here. Is the worst of it over? For some people. For some people, the worst hasn't yet come.